I'm going to talk to you about the plant, the strawberry plant. As I say, you wouldn't think that little plant is so finicky, but it is. Okay, so what is the strawberry plant? Okay, doesn't want to work that way. Okay, the strawberry plant is a member of the rose family. So are apples, peaches, pears, cherries, blackberries. All of those are in the same family group. Wonderful family as far as temperate zone fruits is concerned, because a lot of our fruits are coming from that family. Okay, we do have several native species of strawberries in the temperate regions of the world. The garden or the dessert strawberry is actually a hybrid, and it is Fragaria ananasa. Okay, so the garden strawberry was actually developed in France, and in 1750, and it's a cross of two American species actually that met in France. Okay, the first one is Fragaria virginiana, which is out of the north region of the North America, and then Fragaria Chillawinces, which is part of this in Chillawinces in the southern hemisphere. In the 1500s, explorers brought Fragaria virginiana to France from Virginia. This genotype had larger fruit and deep red. It was a larger berry than the Fragaria vesca grown in Europe at that time. And then 200 years later, Fragaria Chillawinces was brought in from South America. And actually, the spy checking the forts, the Spanish forts in Chile, found the plant and took it to France. And so this genotype also produced larger berries. The problem was that this genotype in France did not produce berries. And what happened, it was only female flowers. So when they planted right next to Virginiana donated the pollen, and now we have a hybrid of the ananasa, which is our strawberry today. Basically, ananasa replaced the commercial production of vesca, and now that's what we cultivate today. I went back. Okay. So let's talk about the strawberry plant. Okay. The strawberry plant is a very short plant, as you know, kind of difficult to harvest. And right there, so I'm going to be going through all of these parts of the plant. So HESA is a non-woody perennial plant. We don't grow it as a perennial plant. Commercially, we grow it as an annual plant. That's one of the reasons why it becomes such a finicky plant. We're trying to push everything in 1 year on that plant. It has a crown right here. It has leaves, fruits coming up, runners coming out, and then it has the root system. But everything is concentrated in that crown. All the leaves are coming from that crown, all the flowers are coming from that crown, the roots, everything, and the crown is about this big. So the crown is nothing more than a stem that has been shrunk to about this big. Again, that's a diagram here. You can see the crown, and it has the stolons or runners, the leaves. You can see the stolons right there. Again, the crown has the leaves coming out, the buds, stolons, inflorescence, other crowns, and the roots. And you can see everything is right there. You can see this is one crown right here. There's another crown, and you can see some leaves in the background. Again, the crown is probably about 3 to 5 centimeters, about 2 inches or so. This is the main crown, the roots, and the branches. And it actually has the cambium and then the pith. Sometimes when in the winter time, if this gets damaged, due to winter. That is what transports the water and the nutrients. So if this area gets damaged, basically your crown is gone. Okay, and we did see some damage like that in one of the growers north of here that did not cover his plants in the winter time. Okay, and once this area is damaged, then basically the probability of that crown doing anything is pretty small.
So if the cambial tissue is damaged?
Yeah, it's the cambium tissue. What you see though when you cut this open, there's a lot of light in here. Let's dim those lights. Is that better? Yeah, much better. You can see here. What you see when you cut it open is this area. This is actually a damaged crown right here. And you can see this crown starting to, the pit starting to get a discoloration to it. It should be, when you cut it, should be perfectly kind of pearly white. But they oxidize really quickly. So don't be cutting thin and then coming back and checking. Cut one up, check it right away. And it's better if you do it out in the field. Okay. The leaves are compound, and actually it's 3 leaves, 3 leaflets. That makes 1 leaf. Okay? It looks like it's 3 separate leaves, but in reality it's 1 leaf. Okay. And again, the strawberry plant, this is your main plant, and it's going to put on runners. Okay, and in each runner puts what we call a daughter plant. And that daughter plant can put more daughter plants. Now, this is how, if you had a home garden, this is how you make your bed grow, by letting those runners form mother plants and daughter plants and establish your bed. This is not a characteristic that we want in commercial strawberry production. Okay, if there is competition between runner production and flowering. So if these plants are starting to get runners, you're going to have less fruit. And you want to concentrate on fruiting. And so some cultivars have a tendency to have more runners than others. So as I said, that is a characteristic that breeders don't like, and they breed against that. Again, each stolon pegs right there, and as it pegs, it forms roots, and then that's how you expand your bed. Now the roots form at the base of the crown, right there, and right here, this is a plug. So the primary roots live up to 1 year, but about 50 to 90% of the roots are on the top 6 inches of the soil, which means you've got to irrigate. You cannot let these guys just plant them and go. Like even, here we are in a drought situation already. We haven't had much rain. And so, the ground is already pretty dry. And so you have to have irrigation. You cannot grow strawberries without irrigation. The inflorescence is a cyme. And then what you have is, you have the primary blossom, and that is the largest blossom. That's a characteristic of the rose family. The first blossom is the largest. If you notice, if you're growing strawberries, that initially the first berries are really large, and then they start going down in size. That's just the normal thing. You can see here, this is the cyme. So this is the largest fruit. The next fruits get smaller and smaller. Okay, but since you have maybe 3-4 crowns coming out, each of those crowns is going to have a king fruit. So that is kind of how you increase your production or your size. Because depending on your markets, people really like large berries, and they go actually for the larger berry, although that larger berry might be of a cultivar that doesn't taste that good. Yes, sir?
Good question. Is there any difference between a large berry and a small berry as far as sweetness and such?
I don't think so. Generally speaking, no. The sugars depend more on how much sunlight has been accumulated and how much photosynthesis has been taking place, and also on the cultivar. Again, this is you can see here, we're already kind of winding down here, but you can see the size of the berries differ. Again, king blossom, smaller berries. The fruit is not an actual berry, okay, but it sounds much better than it's an aggregate accessory fruit, okay. Actually, the fleshy part of the berry is derived from the ovaries. It's actually from the receptacle, okay. And then so each one of these, then each appearing seed, and the outside is the fruit. It's one of the ovaries that is actually expanded a little bit. But like I said, it's not a berry as we know a berry. A grape is a berry. A blueberry is a berry, but not a strawberry. Or a blackberry. Those are not berries. Now, one other thing about strawberries that is different from other fruits quite often is that they respond to a photoperiod. Okay, and what is a photoperiod? Is the development of that plant is dependent on how much light it receives. Okay, and that is photoperiod. Strawberry cultivars vary greatly in their expression of flowering. And they are classified according to their photoperiod. So we have, and these are terms that if you grow strawberries, you look in the catalogs, these are terms that you're familiar with. The June bears or short day plants, okay? The everbears, or those are the long day plants. We don't have many of those commercial. The June bears, when the days get shorter, they produce their flower buds for next year. So if you plant your short day plants in September, then they produce their flower buds, initiate them, and then will show up in March. Okay. The long day plants, which would initiate flowers right now, for us, they are not good because it's already getting very hot, okay? And then we have the photoperiod insensitive, which is also a misnomer. And they are really defined as day neutrals, but they do respond to photoperiod. So again, short day plants initiate flowers when the photoperiod is less than 14 hours. And the perfect example for this is Chandler, which is the most common strawberry grown in this area. The longer plants require longer than 12 hours, and the day neutrals actually hours between 9 and 16 hours. So like I say, it really depends on the cultivar, how much of a day neutral that plant is. It was noted very early that temperature had an effect on flowering, okay? And many studies now have confirmed this. So there was, just to show you, there was a study done in 2010 where they looked at 3 cultivars and the response of constant temperature, right here. This is in centigrades, 14, 17, 20, 29, and then different photoperiods. And they look at yield in runner formation. So remember, honeydew is a short day plant, and the other 2 are day neutral. But you can see here the number of flowers in honeydew as the temperature increases, the number of flowers decreases. And in all of this, temperature is very important. As the days get hotter, they are not setting flower buds, whether they are day neutral or short day plants. It doesn't matter. You can see again, you know, on the black is the short photoperiod, on light is the long photoperiod, and you can see the different responses, but overall there is not much difference between this one and this one. This is a short day plant, this is a, this is a day neutral plant, and this is a short day plant. So really it's the combination of the two. So again, when you're looking at the catalogs, deciding what kind of plant you are going to read between the lines. Because if you are in a hotter area, like you're in southern Arkansas, these cultivars are not going to be reacting as if you were in southern Missouri. Okay, that's the difference that you see here. Any questions so far?
Like the heat, we've had some very hot days up in the 90s already. So my plants are going to be suffering because of that?
Okay, if you have short day plants, they already set their flower buds last spring. So most of their flower buds are already set. Okay, and so, and it actually, again, it is, you have hit cooler nights too. So it's kind of that average on temperatures also. So you for you, my concern would be whether some of those flower buds that were initiated were damaged by the cold temperatures. Because here we got down to -5, so I imagine you guys got even colder. And what was concerning me the most with this cold spell, cold winter, was that the soil temperatures kept going lower and lower and lower. And so we got down, our soil temperature outside got down to 34 degrees. And we were going like, ugh, you know, we needed to be careful. So that was the main thing I would say.
So that chart shows, that's for setting flower bed.
Flower buds. I think I have one for on flowers, per number of flowers that it actually said. But you actually again see the same thing. It started and it basically, I don't know what happened there, but then you can see there's always, on this one it actually as the temperatures get longer, the temperatures get higher, it produces more flowers per inflorescence. So it's a balance between all that.
So this blast of warm air, like he's talking, that's really not going to affect our production and cut it short too bad.
What do you have, Chandler?
No, festival.
Festival. Okay, so festival is probably going to react more like Chandler, but again for us, if I can say something about festival, festival has been our workhorse. And you can late tomorrow when you see we actually have some disease on our chandlers. Our chandlers are collapsing.
Okay.
And we don't know what it kind of looks like verticillium, but we don't know what it is, but it's only affecting the chandlers.
Are we going there today, or?
We can go later. We don't. I can ask you to go with me.
Yeah. Well, we can make it a diagnosis.
Yeah. We took. They are at the lab now.
Yeah.
But if you might just see it and see what you see. But our
Or
chandlers.
they can bring it here and we can diagnose it together.
Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Megan.
I'll do it.
On your runners, you said how those runners affect flowers.
Yes.
Is it ever too late to remove runners?
You want to remove runners as soon as you see them. Especially
they're-
right now.
They're going crazy.
They are
right now.
going crazy, and that's the problem. It is that there is it to me is more competitive on your fruit size and all that than anything else. Runnering is not allowed in plasticulture. Okay.
Would that be a planting date?
That's a planting date too, but some cultivars, actually sometimes when you get the plant, they already have runners. And I'm going to show you in a film video that we took, how they, you see the runners on some of these plants, and they go in and cut them off. That is really important. You don't want runnering in plasticulture, period. Yes?
Is that caused by day length or
It's
temperature?
caused by day length and also by, and let me show you something in a minute, okay? Hold that question. Okay, so strawberry plants are one of the most manipulated fruits that we have. And basically because they are small, and so we can do all sorts of things with them. We cannot just bring an apple tree into a greenhouse and manipulate it, right? But these plants are small, they fit in pots, so we can do all sorts of things. So this is how we condition plants. So you can see here, and by the way, most of our plants that we get, regardless of where your nursery source is coming from, most of the plants that you get are coming in from Canada. Then they are distributed to the different nurseries. But they, remember in Canada in June and July, the days are getting longer, but at the same time, actually they're, beginning to get shorter, so the plant begins to acclimate. So this is a year cycle. So let's begin with this, where do we begin? Let's see.
Planting in September.
Let's go ahead, that's a good idea. We plant them in September. Okay, so the temperatures are cool, and that's when they initiate flowers. Okay, and so then you go through, the plants kind of go dormant a little bit, not full dormancy, but they are very dormant in the wintertime. But right here, as the temperatures begin to warm up, then the inflorescence actually now shows up. But the buds were put here, okay, in September or October. Okay, and then you have flowering, and then you crop them, and then the long days encourage stolon formation. Okay, and then that's when the runners form, and then hitting the photoperiod, beginning short days beginning in August, and now the temperatures begin to cool. This is Canada, not Arkansas. Then the flowers begin to initiate, and the cycle begins again. But like I said, regardless of where you're getting your your plants, they've been grown in Canada because of some of these cooler and shorter days.
Could you affect that if you went with some shade? Could you delay some of that?
That is possible to do, yeah, but it's also again in some areas like here we couldn't really do it because of the temperatures. Now, you guys grow some in North Carolina in the mountains, right?
Yeah, they're in the mountains, but it's the same climate zone as Ontario. They're both classified as Carolinian forests, so it'd be it's almost the same climate.
Right. So
yeah.
That's where some of the plants are, coming also from North Carolina. Actually, probably a lot of our plants now, because the main guy that sells plants, Mr. Goodson, has partnered with someone in North Carolina.
Mitchell Wren.
Yeah. And so I imagine some of our plants might nowadays be coming actually from North Carolina. A couple of years ago, there was an issue with viruses coming in from Canada.
Yeah, I think most of their plants still come from Nova Scotia.
Okay, Nova Scotia. Yeah. So. You can get plants either bare roots or in plugs. My suggestion is go for the plugs. Much easier to handle. Okay.
As most commercial strawberry growers know, when you receive your plants, that's when the real work begins. Most growers are going to receive plants in one of three forms: dormant bare root, strawberry tips, or plug plants in trays. Today at the University of Arkansas Division of Agriculture Research Station at Fayetteville, we've received our plants in plug form. These plants have come in boxes and they're in trays, and in this particular case there are 5 trays per box. These plants are stacked in here pretty tight. The first thing you want to do that I'd like to mention is that maybe while you're ordering your plants, you might want to think about the distance between the nursery and your farm and how long it's going to take for those plants to get there. Ideally, you would want to try to minimize the amount of time that those plants are in transportation or in boxes. Immediately when you receive the plants, you need to have a place to put them if they're not going directly to the field, and we'll talk more about that as we go into this film. The first thing I like to do is get my plants. You want to inspect the trays. You want to start pulling your plants out and you want to inspect them for several different things. The first thing is get a lot of your plants out, a lot of your trays, and look for general signs of disease. Look at the plant health. One thing that you might look at too, and it's very important to look for, is presence of spider mites. However, probably the first thing that I like to do is pull out several of the plugs and just look at the roots and how much moisture is in the root ball, because if you have to set the plants back for a few days before planting, the amount of root development may give you an idea how long you can do that. If they're already starting to appear to be root bound, then you might want to try to get them in the field as quickly as possible. If they're relatively loose rooted, you probably have a few more days, but probably trying to get them to the field as soon as possible would be best. But I like to actually let them lay out and acclimate outside the boxes for about 1 to 2 days. But again, looking at the plants, and one thing that I do is when I'm looking at strawberry plants, especially those that are going to be used under protected culture, such as in greenhouses or high tunnels, is you want to assess the mite situation as early as possible on the plants. The plants should be clean, but you want to know that before you take the plants to your field. So I will use a hand lens or a magnifying glass and look at several of the leaves in the different trays. And you don't have to inspect all the leaves or all the trays, but if you find mites, you want to know that they're there, and you'll want to come up with a plan to deal with them at some point. Once you take your plants out of the boxes, selecting a site for the trays is very important. Some of the considerations that I think about are: what is the current temperature at the time? What's the sunlight situation? Is it cloudy? Is it sunny? Is it hot, or is it cool? Is it rainy? The most important thing with these plants, though, is making sure they have plenty of water. As soon as you get your plants out, it's good, even if the plugs look nice and wet, it's good to go ahead and douse them with some water them thoroughly. Set your plugs in an area that is going to be free of animal traffic. I mean, if you have dogs or large pets, you don't want animals going through trampling your plants. But one of the things that we particular at the University of Arkansas Research Station, Division of Agriculture Research Station, have to pay attention to is rabbits. And most of the time, if we have small plants, especially ones that rabbits like to eat, that we're setting out, we always put chicken wire or some kind of barrier around them just to safeguard against that. We all know how expensive they are. We don't want them to get eaten or damaged before we put them in the field. Another thing that we might consider too, if you're getting more than one variety, especially if you have multiple varieties, either set aside sections for each cultivar or label the individual trays when you set them out, so you don't get them mixed up. Just a helpful hint, because if you can have a lot of trays and you can get them confused in a hurry. Once we set our trays in place, one of the things that we talked about, the conditions in which you receive the plants, and I'm going to use today as an example. Today it's over 90 degrees, the wind's blowing, we have full sun. We've decided to put our plants under a shade house at least for 1 or 2 days, and we may go ahead and move them to full sun depending on what the weather does, but we feel with the stress of being shipped, put in boxes and shipped, and taking them out in these conditions, we feel better by keeping them in the shade house. They'll eventually be in full sun anyway, but that's how we're treating these right now. Earlier I mentioned though that I like to see the plants set out a day to 1 to 2 days before we actually put them in the beds. And the reason I like to do that is like after they're scrunched down inside the boxes, that gives them time to the leaves kind of straighten back out and point towards the sunlight. And I think it kind of gives a little bit of, use that time for a buffer to let them kind of recuperate from the shipping process.
Well, in summary, doubtless God could have created and could have made a better berry, but doubtless God did not. So we have this strawberry. Any questions? On the strawberry, on the plant, and kind of taking care of your plugs, which is, it's very important, because that's how you begin. And if you don't start on the right, with everything just right, then you might have some problems. Okay, if there are no questions, I believe who's our next, are you our next speaker? Yeah. And you're gonna be talking now? So you want this one?
Yeah, that's right.